Hello, welcome to the podcast. My name is Dan Bernardo, and I am joined with Keith Mosher and Bo Davis, and this is Good Martial is Universal podcast. So, why did we decide to call this podcast the Good Martial is Universal podcast?
Because we're lazy.
Because we're lazy. Yeah. Speak for yourself. I don't think I have enough energy to be lazy.
This is already y'all's thing. I just hopped on.
So, Good Martial is Universal is a concept that we've been essentially running with for the last 2 years. Longer than that? 3 years?
At least.
We have done Good Martial is Universal seminars, workshops, and the idea behind it really is the truth of the matter that when you talk about martial arts, universal themes kind of end up always showing up. If you're empty-handed, you're using the same tool as any other empty-hand art. So the way that you neutralize and control incoming force is going to be the same as another art trying to neutralize and control the same sort of incoming force. Weapon work, same thing. Now, weapon work and empty hand work are not the same, because they're using different tools. But one of the things that I think what needs to happen more is a conversation based on what things we all have in common, more than what we have that are different and unique. So this podcast is essentially that conversation. Now, we all three come from very varying backgrounds. We have very similar, we have a thread that kind of unites us all, but we also have a lot of differences. I come from a primarily Korean karate background. Keith comes from a primarily Japanese and Chinese background, and Bo primarily comes from a historical European background with a little bit of judo and stuff in there as well. Those are our main threads. Now we all kind of branch and basically do the same stuff as each other, right? But our main thread is sort of variation, or sort of different. So, but it's been really a blast to have these conversations and talk about what's similar. And so, anyway, I saw his eyes do something when I said something earlier, and I don't remember what I said, but
You said that as soon as it goes to weapons, it's all different. And then my brain said, no.
I didn't say it was all different.
Well, something to that effect. That as soon as we go to weapons, it's not the same.
It's not the same. It's similar, but it's not the same.
But between arts, regardless of the weapon, there's still going to be some similarity. It's still about controlling the center and controlling the range and controlling the tempo, and it doesn't matter whether I've got an axe or I've got a bow or whatever. There are commonalities. To help define why it's called Good Martial is Universal, we could have also called it Bad Martial is Universal.
True.
Things that don't work.
True.
Right? That becomes kind of easy to see. Just watch a lot of bullshito And you'll go, that wouldn't work, that wouldn't work, that wouldn't work. Which then that weeds out. That's a pre-edit. That's pre-edit. Okay, all this stuff is out, that doesn't work. Okay, this is the stuff that does work. And then you find commonalities. You and I date this back probably a decade, really. Dan would put up a video of some Hyung, and I go, that's the middle of Chungkyu in Wing Chun. Oh, that's right in Silang Tao. Oh, that's right out of the Mukyang Jong form. And we're constantly seeing things that are identical. Literally, not just technique, but literally sequences of movements that are identical.
Right. Where the objective is identical.
Yeah.
And the skill to meet that objective is identical.
And they're working on the same fundamental principles of controlling this line, controlling the range, controlling the tempo. So
Postural control, structure control.
So that's what started it a decade or more ago. And then probably 3 years ago, maybe a little more, maybe a little less, there was a decision to, okay, we need to do seminars. Under this idea where intentionally we would, we'd have the attendees come in and Dan would say, well, this is what we do in Tang Soo Do. And I go, okay, this is what we do in Wing Chun. Hey, that looks identical. Yeah, that's the point. Don't get hung up on your art.
Right.
Which is a podcast that will come up. You call it an art or a style. Don't get hung up on the art. If you're going to get hung up on anything, get hung up on the basic principles and the techniques. You'll find the techniques match. Techniques that I do, he does. Even though Wing Chun is largely empty hand, but there are weapons. But there's still fundamental principles that they have to do with their long weapons that I have to do with my long weapons, my really, really long weapons, or just my hands.
A lot of times whenever I just hit a thrust on someone, and you look at the structure of it, it just looks like a tonsal, but my hands are built up. Yeah. Right there.
Tonsal and Wusal.
If nothing's there, that's just a building.
Which is hand strums the lute in Tai Chi Chuan.
It's karate stance. This is how I'm supposed to rep it.
Well, yeah, because karate, the sparring stance in karate comes from kendo.
It's all fundamentally, if it works,
Right.
it's all the same.
And that's
If it doesn't work,
right. And I think that's what I really want people to get out of this, and the conversation that should be had is that once you figure out what works universally, you can start to look at a form or a person practicing something, or no matter what it is, you can look at it and go, I can tell that is a fantasy. I can tell that they don't practice that with real intent, where the whatchamacallit, their opponent is not trying to shut it down, resist it. There's
pressure.
The technique works in a vacuum. It works without essentially without real martial functionality. And so you can then go to any school. It doesn't matter what art they do. It doesn't matter. You can go to any school and look at what they're doing and going, that's a fantasy.
It's choreography.
Because I can do any sorts of stuff by myself. But then as soon as I try to do it on another person, I'm going to get punched in the face, and I will get knocked out. And even if they don't punch you in the face, there's a great video of an Aikido guy He goes to like, I don't know, challenge a BJJ guy. I don't remember what it was.
Yeah.
See this video? And all the BJJ guy does is he comes up and he just slaps the Aikido guy in the face.
Yeah, he's like, ton.
Yeah, and he's like, no, we're not allowed to do that. The guy's like, I'm being nice to you. But like that, I think is the most important piece of this conversation that needs to be had is know what is real, know what is universally true in your martial practice, and practice that. Don't practice the fluffy fantasy world.
I would say that in terms of whatever you practice, whatever you do, it should make you happy. You should enjoy it. You should enjoy it. And if you know that what you're doing doesn't work in real world sense, but it makes you happy, go for it.
Sure.
Dance is there's a positive nature to dance.
Sure.
It's not going to defend you in a street fight. I mean, unless you're the Jets fighting the cats on the other side, it's not really going to defend you. But if you enjoy it and it burns some energy, go for it. So I would say, as long as you are true to yourself, and if you're an instructor, as long as you're true to yourself and your students,
you don't lie.
You don't lie. You said, like, I wouldn't do this in the street. This is likely not to work, but this is what we want to do right now because it may, a thing that doesn't work may actually have a benefit in creating eye-hand coordination or instilling some sense of timing or some sense of range. But then you do have, if you're going to teach a martial art, at some point you have to say, okay, this is stuff that works, or at least can work. Over here's the stuff that doesn't work, but we do that too. But here's the stuff that works. If you do that, that's great.
I would take that a little step backwards, because oftentimes what happens when people do fantasy stuff and it's fun and it's very dancey and it's very much for tournaments and it's very much for choreography and it's beautiful and blah blah blah, but it ends up being really, really, really bad for their joints. Okay, so sometimes if you don't actually have another person resisting your technique, you don't figure out how to move your body efficiently. So I can't tell you how many old karate guys I know, old Tungsten guys that I know that have busted up knees, busted up hips, busted up shoulders, and they can't train, right? Like your martial art is not supposed to make you weaker. Martial art is supposed to make you stronger. It's supposed to, so that if you do love what you do, you can do it forever.
Yeah, I think I would lump that in part of being true, recognizing what one of the things that we talk about is biomechanics. And if you're talking about biomechanics, then you would go, okay, yeah, that's really bad for your knees. Don't do that, right?
But there's a lot of people that don't know that.
There's a lot of people that don't even understand what we're saying, which is why we are saying it, and why there is us, and why there is a website called Bushido where you can look and go, yeah, that's stupid.
Yeah, that's going to get people hurt.
It's summarized down to one thing: self-awareness. You have enough self-awareness to know you're doing bullshit, or you don't.
Sometimes that's difficult.
It is very difficult.
When somebody walks in the door and they say, I want to learn martial arts, they know nothing usually. I mean, like maybe they know something, but nobody walks in, I don't want to say nobody, very few people walk into a martial arts school having self-awareness.
That's true.
So it is a very important job for us as instructors to have the ability to lead our students in a way that is beneficial for them. In all ways.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's tough, but
people can be led. There have been snake oil salesmen since the dawn of time. Not the dawn of time, since the dawn of time. human social
Civilization.
interaction. Civilization. There have been people selling beer,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And there are people who are gullible. And those two things don't work. I mean, they works for the snake world still, but it doesn't work for the gullible person.
Yeah.
So, yeah, when a person walks in, oh, I want to study Wing Chun, or I want to study Tang Soo, they don't know anything about it other than what they've seen in the movies. And 9 times out of 10, the stuff in the movies is the fun stuff that doesn't work.
And it's bad for you.
Yeah.
Your joints.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Man, I saw this guy do a spinning tornado kick, and like, yeah, okay, yeah, it's great in the movies. Might be okay in the ring. I don't know that I want to do that on a Beverly Street.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? And
Right.
so a good instructor would say, yeah, okay, that's fun. If you want to train that, that's okay. But,
Right.
oh, you're having difficulty with it and it's hurting your knee every time you land it. You do not have the capacity, or you're the wrong weight or the wrong age. Let's not do this because it's
Right.
bad for your body.
Yeah.
Would be a good instructor. A
Right.
bad instructor, the old ones that we used to have, would pull out a little pain stick and go, no, fix that,
Yeah,
fix
yeah.
this,
Yeah.
fix that,
Yeah,
and make it even worse.
Yeah.
Slowly deteriorating over time.
Yeah.
The beating stick.
Well, using pain or aggression or something to make you do something your body is telling you can't do. And by can't, I mean that person's frame can't do that and should not be made to do that. It's like that video you posted about, I can't remember your form, but the fellow doing the range of motion, and not everybody needs to have more range of motion than
Right.
they currently have.
Right.
Yeah.
That could be busting joints up.
More is not always better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for some people, most of my students are senior and old, and most of them unfit.
Yeah.
There's things that I would love to do. Let's go. Let's do some dive rolls. I look at the class and go, nope, not doing that.
Nope.
Not gonna happen, not gonna happen. They will break.
Yep.
And they will never get to a point where they could. Maybe if I got them a little sooner and worked with them over time,
Right.
I could get them to the point where they could do something like that.
Yeah.
But there's just some things you just shouldn't do, but people are they're going to sell you. They'll sell you whatever you buy, you're willing to buy.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's a bad thing.
Yep.
Absolutely.
So maybe, I try to tell people, be wary of somebody who's promising the world to you, in general. But it happens a lot in martial arts, I try as hard as I can if somebody comes in and they say, I want to be a fighter. I said, not here. I don't offer that. It's not that I couldn't. It's just, I'm honest enough. It's not my world. The fight world is not my world. I know people come in and they say, do you practice any BJJ? No. I'm horrible on the ground. I'm not going to, just because I want your money doesn't mean that I'm going to lie to you and tell you, oh yeah, we do that. Oh yeah, we do everything. Yeah. No, that's a bad idea. That's a bad idea. I don't think, and we'll talk about this more in the future, but I don't think that there is a single martial art that is a complete martial art. Not a single one.
It depends on what you mean by, no, it depends on
Complete,
what
meaning
you
if somebody
mean.
walks in, I could teach them everything.
Well,
Complete.
okay, I would use the term complete as does the martial art cover all possible ranges for combat?
It doesn't. Do you teach sniping? Do you teach
Okay,
the ability
well-
to sit in a tank and shoot
Well,
a...
then,
No.
Well, no.
Drones? Do you
No.
practice drones?
Yeah.
No, not every martial art actually is complete.
Yeah, then you would have to define what your range of combat.
I had a
combat
lady...
versus self-defense.
I had a lady in class once, military, and I had mentioned that we were going to start to use long-range weapons, like a long weapon, right? And she was like, she kind of gave me this look, and I was like, yeah. And I put it over to the long sword, and she goes, that's not long range. Long range is, I'm 300 yards away, sitting behind a scope,
That crossbow over there.
Like, that's not even long range. I mean, like, that's long range for the medieval times, maybe.
Yeah, you'd really be surprised. So I fired that the other day with a marker at the heavy bag. Dude, I don't know where the marker went.
Okay. But still, that's not 300 plus yards.
I would be willing to
Like,
find out.
you-
I'll go buy a bolt.
Even still, you could not sit here in South Carolina and shoot your crossbow and hit Europe.
No.
No.
I
So
don't have
long-range
but
weapons
They can do that.
Yeah.
right now are long-range weapons.
Super long range. But that
We can
gets
hit Mars if we want.
that gets to, you have to define what you're calling combat.
See, like, I don't even use that word, right?
And I don't use that word either.
Yeah. Like,
Because combat is, to me, military. When somebody
Yeah.
says, I want to learn
I've
combat,"
never been in the military.
I tell them, you need to go join the army.
Mm-hmm.
But then a complete self-defense, many people have, I took, we do all the hand stuff and punch and kick. What happened, and this is common back in our day, my day, back in the 70s. Well, what happens when you get on the ground? Well, we don't do that. Well, a complete art in terms of self-defense would have some groundwork and some standing work and some
What about
close in
concealed weapons?
Close
Like-
in weapons work.
No,
like
concealed
not-
weapons, like firearms.
Yeah, well, that gets into a different space.
What
But
about open
But
carry?
that should be, right, like that, I mean, we live in South Carolina, that's very common out there now, right?
Yeah.
So, I don't know, anyway, what do you think defines a complete martial art? Let me know in the comments, let us know in the comments. And hit that subscribe button, like it, share, because we're going to be putting these out every week. Cool? Cool. Awesome. Peace, everybody.